Trump's controversial top Border Patrol official Gregory Bovino is expected to leave Minneapolis within the next 24 hours. And he's taking some of his 2,000 masked and armed border agents with him. CNN is learning administration officials are frustrated with Bovino, who you may remember went before cameras. He said this.
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
Donald Trump is reportedly having a complete meltdown over his own attorney general, and what sources are calling a betrayal by Pam Bondi could trigger the most dramatic Justice Department implosion in modern American history. We're not talking about typical policy disagreements or strategic differences. We're talking about reports that Trump is privately and publicly blasting Bondi as weak and ineffective because she won't prosecute his political enemies fast enough. That he's allegedly calling for special counsels who would report directly to him instead of to her. That he wants James Comey, Adam Schiff, and Letitia James prosecuted immediately and is furious Bondi is dragging her feet. And sources suggest the dysfunction has spread through the entire Justice Department with over 6,000 resignations or firings, Civil Rights Division gutted, corruption unit decimated, and 99% of Epstein files still sealed past the congressional deadline. When a president goes to war with his own attorney general because she won't weaponize the Justice Department against his enemies, that might not be political drama. That could be the death of independent law enforcement and the transformation of DOJ into personal prosecution machine for presidential vendettas. But before we break down how Trump's war with Bondi could destroy what's left of Justice Department independence, real quick. You cannot trust mainstream media to explain what it means when a president demands his attorney general prosecute specific enemies by name. That's why we built Patrick Smith Show to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want analysis that actually connects Trump's fury at Bondi to the systematic dismantling of law enforcement functions that could hold him accountable, hit that subscribe button right now, because what's happening at DOJ right now could determine whether America still has rule of law or just presidential vengeance disguised as justice. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what Trump is actually demanding from Bondi and why sources suggest her resistance might be only thing preventing complete weaponization of federal law enforcement. Because this isn't about Bondi being insufficiently aggressive on policy or not implementing Trump's agenda effectively. Reports indicate Trump specifically wants prosecutions of named individuals. Former FBI Director James Comey, Congressman Adam Schiff, who led impeachment proceedings, New York Attorney General Letitia James, who's investigated Trump's businesses. He allegedly wants these people charged and is furious Bondi won't move fast enough. And when Attorney General refuses to prosecute president's enemies on demand, when she maintains some independence about following evidence rather than political orders, sources suggest Trump views that as betrayal, as disloyalty that must be punished. Which creates situation where Bondi might face choice between maintaining professional integrity and keeping her job. And if Trump replaces her with someone who will prosecute on command without requiring actual evidence, the Justice Department could become exactly what authoritarian leaders use to eliminate opposition, not law enforcement agency, presidential weapon against anyone who threatens the leader's power. Let's start by documenting exactly what Trump allegedly wants Bondi to do, because the specificity of his demands might reveal this isn't about general policy direction, but rather targeted use of prosecution power against individuals. Sources indicate Trump has been telling aides and people around him that Bondi is failing him, that she's not aggressive enough, that she's moving too slowly on prosecuting his political enemies. And reports suggest he's naming specific people he wants charged. James Comey, the former FBI director Trump fired, and who later documented their conversations in memos that became evidence in investigations. Trump allegedly wants Comey prosecuted. For what crimes specifically? That's not clear from the reporting. But Trump reportedly believes Comey should face charges and is angry Bondi hasn't brought them. Adam Schiff, the California congressman who was central figure in Trump's first impeachment and who has been consistent Trump critic. Sources indicate Trump wants Schiff prosecuted as well. Again, the specific alleged crimes aren't detailed. but Trump apparently believes Schiff's role in impeachment, or his criticism, constitutes prosecutable conduct. And Letitia James, New York's Attorney General who has investigated Trump Organization and brought civil cases against Trump's businesses. Reports suggest Trump views these investigations as political persecution and wants James prosecuted for conducting them, that she should face federal charges for doing her job as state attorney general investigating potential fraud. Think about what these demands reveal. Trump isn't asking Bondi to investigate whether crimes occurred and follow evidence wherever it leads. He's allegedly demanding prosecution of specific people he views as enemies. The Attorney General's job becomes finding crimes to charge them with rather than investigating crimes and seeing where evidence points. That's backwards from how law enforcement is supposed to work. And when Bondi resists that backwards approach, when she maintains that prosecution should be based on evidence rather than presidential anger, Trump reportedly calls her weak and ineffective. But Trump's fury at Bondi reportedly extends beyond just her refusal to prosecute his enemies. Sources indicate he's also angry about the pace of releasing Epstein files, and the Epstein situation might reveal whether Bondi is trying to maintain independence or whether she's protecting powerful people from exposure, just like Trump allegedly wants. Reports indicate Congress passed legislation requiring DOJ to release all Epstein investigation files by specific deadline. The investigation allegedly produced over 2 million documents, evidence about Epstein's network, people who were involved, activities that occurred, all of it supposed to become public under the transparency law. But sources suggest only about 12,000 documents have been released. That's less than 1% of the total. 99% of files remain sealed despite congressional mandate and despite deadline having passed. Senate Democrats are reportedly threatening to hold Bondi in contempt for failing to comply with law Congress passed requiring disclosure. Think about what that massive discrepancy might mean. Either the process of reviewing and releasing 2 million documents is genuinely taking longer than anticipated for legitimate reasons, or someone is deliberately slow-walking release because those files contain information powerful people don't want public. Names of people connected to Epstein, evidence of activities they want buried, details that could destroy reputations or reveal criminal conduct. And here's where Bondi's situation becomes particularly complicated. If she's genuinely trying to release files but bureaucratic process is slow, Trump might be unfairly blaming her for delays beyond her control. But if she's deliberately withholding files to protect people whose names appear in them, including potentially Trump himself, then she's doing exactly what Trump wants, even while he publicly criticizes other aspects of her performance. Sources suggest it's unclear which scenario is accurate, but the fact that 99% of files remain hidden past congressional deadline doesn't look good regardless of motivation. Share this video with everyone you know because there's reportedly another element. If Bondi gets held in contempt by Senate for not releasing files, that becomes additional political ammunition Democrats can use against Trump administration. Not only is his attorney general refusing to prosecute his enemies fast enough for his liking, she's also allegedly defying Congress by not following transparency law. That combination makes her vulnerable from both directions. Trump attacking from one side for not being aggressive enough, Congress attacking from other side for not being transparent enough. And that impossible position might ultimately force her resignation or firing. But what might be most revealing about DOJ dysfunction under Trump isn't just his conflict with Bondi, it's reportedly the systematic destruction of departments and functions that don't serve his political interests. Sources indicate over 6,000 people have left the Justice Department through resignations or firings. That's not normal turnover. That's not routine restructuring. That might be purge designed to eliminate anyone who won't comply with weaponization of law enforcement. And reports suggest the departures aren't random. Specific divisions have been particularly hard hit. The Civil Rights Division, responsible for investigating discrimination and protecting constitutional rights, has allegedly been gutted. Staffing reduced dramatically, resources stripped, capacity to investigate civil rights violations essentially eliminated. When you destroy civil rights enforcement, sources indicate you remove oversight of police misconduct, voting rights violations, discrimination cases. All the things that might constrain Trump's more aggressive tactics or hold his administration accountable for constitutional violations. The corruption unit has reportedly been decimated as well. This is the division that investigates white-collar crime, financial fraud, public corruption. When you eliminate corruption investigations, you remove threat to wealthy and powerful people who might be committing financial crimes. Trump's business associates, Republican donors, anyone in the network who could potentially face prosecution for fraud or corruption gets protection through lack of enforcement. Think about what message those specific purges send. It's not about making Justice Department more efficient. It's allegedly about eliminating functions that could threaten Trump or his allies. Keep civil rights enforcement so you can crack down on protesters and minorities without oversight. Keep corruption units so wealthy supporters don't face prosecution. What remains is law enforcement that only goes after Trump's enemies while protecting his friends. That's not justice system. That's authoritarian enforcement arm. Make sure you're subscribed because sources suggest there's another dimension to the exodus. People inside DOJ are reportedly circulating support letters for Bondi trying to shore up her position. That indicates staff recognizes she might be fired for not being sufficiently weaponized, and they're worried her replacement would be even worse. Someone who would prosecute on Trump's demand without maintaining even the limited independence Bondi has tried to preserve. But ironically, those support letters might make Trump angrier. He could view them as evidence Bondi has built independent power base that's loyal to her rather than to him. And that kind of independence is exactly what Trump reportedly can't tolerate. But here's where Trump's response to Bondi's alleged betrayal could get particularly dangerous for what's left of Justice Department independence. Sources indicate Trump is floating idea of appointing special counsels who would report directly to him instead of to the Attorney General. And if that happens, it could completely bypass any remaining checks on presidential power to weaponize prosecutions. Normally, special counsels operate with independence. They're appointed to investigate specific matters without political interference. They report to Attorney General but have autonomy in how they conduct investigations. That structure is designed to ensure prosecutorial decisions are based on evidence rather than political pressure. But reports suggest Trump wants special counsels who answer to him, who take direction from president about who to investigate and what charges to bring. Think about what that structure would mean in practice. Trump could appoint special counsel to investigate Adam Schiff, tell that counsel specifically what Trump wants charged, direct the investigation toward predetermined conclusion rather than following evidence. And because counsel reports to Trump rather than Attorney General, Bondi couldn't stop it even if she thought prosecution was unfounded. Her role would be completely circumvented. Trump would have direct control over prosecutorial power without any internal checks. And sources suggest Trump could appoint multiple special counsels for different enemies. One for Comey, one for Schiff, one for Letitia James. Each one directed to find crimes to charge rather than investigating whether crimes occurred. That's not law enforcement. That's systematic political persecution using federal prosecutorial power, and it would establish precedent that future presidents could exploit. If Trump can direct special counsels to prosecute his enemies, future presidents from either party could do the same. Rule of law gets replaced by presidential vendettas. If Trump successfully implements special counsel system that bypasses Attorney General, it proves Bondi's independence doesn't matter. He can get what he wants with or without her cooperation. That makes her firing less politically costly because he's already found workaround. And it signals to potential Bondi replacements that they don't need to maintain independence. Trump has ways to weaponize DOJ regardless of who holds Attorney General position. That complete undermining of institutional constraints could be exactly what Trump wants to establish going forward. But let's talk about the situation Bondi finds herself in, and why sources suggest she might face choice between maintaining any integrity and keeping her job. Because Attorney General position has historically required balancing political accountability to president with professional independence about prosecutorial decisions. But Trump allegedly isn't interested in that balance. He wants total loyalty and views any independence as betrayal. Reports indicate Bondi's defense of her performance centers on focusing on Trump's actual policy agenda rather than what she characterizes as distractions, like prosecuting his political enemies. She's saying she's trying to run Justice Department professionally, implementing real policies, not turning agency into weapon. But that professional approach is apparently exactly what enrages Trump. He doesn't want professional law enforcement. He reportedly wants vengeance against people who investigated him, impeached him, criticized him. Think about Bondi's options. She could give Trump what he wants. Start prosecuting Comey, Schiff, James regardless of whether evidence supports charges. That keeps her job but destroys any pretense of Justice Department independence and makes her complicit in political persecution. Or she could resign, which preserves her reputation but abandons Justice Department to whoever Trump appoints as more compliant replacement. Or she could try threading needle by doing enough to satisfy Trump while maintaining some standards. But sources suggest Trump doesn't want threading needles. He wants total compliance. And there's reportedly another dimension. The DOJ staff support letters might actually make Bondi's position worse rather than better. When Trump sees people rallying around someone he views as disloyal, it confirms in his mind that she's built independent power base, that she's not sufficiently controlled, that she needs to be removed and replaced with someone who won't have that kind of internal support. The very efforts to protect her could accelerate her firing by proving to Trump that she's a threat to his control. Interestingly, sources suggest Bondi might also be calculating about midterm implications. If she prosecutes Trump's enemies on his demand, and those prosecutions look political, it could devastate Republicans in November. Democrats would make weaponized Justice Department central campaign issue. Independent voters might be repelled by obvious political persecution. Bondi might be trying to protect not just her integrity, but also Republican electoral prospects by refusing to give Trump the most damaging examples of prosecutorial abuse. But Trump apparently cares more about punishing enemies than about midterm strategy. But step back and look at what Trump's war with Bondi might reveal about his vision for how government should work. Because sources suggest this isn't just about Justice Department. It could be template for how Trump wants to transform every federal agency into tools serving his personal interests rather than public interest. When President demands Attorney General prosecute specific enemies by name. When he threatens to bypass her authority if she won't comply. When he systematically destroys divisions that could hold him accountable. That establishes pattern that could spread to other agencies. Think about what happens if other cabinet officials see Trump's treatment of Bondi. They learn that maintaining any independence gets characterized as betrayal, that doing their jobs professionally rather than politically means losing Trump's support. That survival depends on total loyalty and willingness to weaponize their agencies. That incentive structure could transform entire executive branch into authoritarian apparatus, where every agency serves presidential power rather than law or public interest. And reports suggest there are already signs of this pattern elsewhere. ICE operations that look more like political theater than law enforcement. Border Patrol leadership conducting operations designed to provoke confrontations rather than effective enforcement. Cabinet officials making decisions based on what Trump wants politically rather than what policy requires substantively. When you combine all of that with Justice Department being weaponized, you potentially have systematic corruption of federal government's core functions. But there's reportedly another element specific to Justice Department. If Trump successfully forces Bondi out and replaces her with more compliant Attorney General, that sends message to prosecutors throughout the agency. Follow political direction or face consequences. Investigate Trump's enemies aggressively. Protect his allies. Make prosecutorial decisions based on presidential preferences rather than evidence. That corruption could persist long after Trump leaves office if prosecutors internalize those lessons about how to advance careers. And now, sources suggest there's also international dimension. Other authoritarian leaders watch how Trump treats Justice Department. If he successfully weaponizes it without domestic consequences, that provides model they can follow, claiming they're just doing what America does. Using law enforcement against political opponents becomes normalized globally if United States, traditionally a champion of rule of law, abandons those principles so obviously. Trump's war with Bondi matters beyond just American domestic politics. So what actually happens now with Trump's fury at Bondi and the Justice Department implosion? because sources suggest several possible scenarios depending on whether Bondi tries to hold her position or decides situation has become untenable. If Bondi resigns, Trump likely replaces her with someone willing to prosecute on command. That accelerates weaponization of Justice Department but removes tension by ensuring Attorney General is totally compliant. Democrats would use resignation as evidence Trump can't tolerate independent law enforcement. Bondi might preserve some reputation by leaving rather than participating in political persecution. If Bondi stays and tries compromising by giving Trump some of what he wants, she might survive temporarily, but faces continued attacks every time she resists full weaponization. Reports suggest Trump doesn't respond well to partial compliance. He views any resistance as disloyalty. So compromise approach probably just delays inevitable firing, while forcing Bondi to participate in conduct she might find professionally unacceptable. That damages both her integrity and the institution. If Trump fires Bondi despite her attempts to serve him, that becomes major political story. President firing Attorney General because she won't prosecute his enemies becomes defining example of authoritarian governance. Democrats make it central midterm campaign issue. Media covers it extensively, but Trump might calculate that his base doesn't care about institutional norms, and weaponized Justice Department actually energizes supporters who want to see his enemies punished. So firing might not cost him politically even while destroying remaining Justice Department independence. Think about Epstein files complication. If Senate holds Bondi in contempt for not releasing files, that gives Trump additional justification for replacing her. He can claim she's failing to comply with law and use that as reason for firing. That seems less obviously political. But replacement Attorney General would face same pressure to release files. Unless Trump specifically wants someone who will continue hiding them to protect people whose names might appear, in which case, contempt threat becomes tool for removing Bondi while installing someone even more committed to cover up. Now, if Bondi gets fired or resigns close to midterm elections, that could have enormous electoral impact. Democrats arguing Trump destroyed Justice Department independence right before voting. But if it happens with more time before November, Trump administration might hope controversy fades before elections. That calculation about timing could influence when Trump actually pulls trigger on replacing Bondi versus continuing to pressure her. So here's what Trump's war with Pam Bondi reveals about Justice Department under his administration. A president demanding prosecutions of specific enemies by name. Calling his attorney general weak and ineffective because she won't weaponize federal law enforcement fast enough. Threatening to appoint special counsels who report directly to him to bypass her authority. Over 6,000 people fired or resigned from DOJ. Civil Rights Division gutted. Corruption unit decimated. 99% of Epstein files still sealed past congressional deadline, with Senate threatening contempt charges. An internal staff circulating support letters trying to protect Attorney General from being fired for maintaining even limited independence. The implications for rule of law couldn't be more serious. If Trump successfully forces Bondi to prosecute his enemies or replaces her with someone who will, Justice Department becomes exactly what authoritarian leaders use to eliminate opposition, not law enforcement agency following evidence. Presidential weapon against anyone who threatens the leader. And once that transformation is complete, reversing it might be nearly impossible because prosecutors learn that career advancement depends on political loyalty rather than professional integrity. The purges of civil rights and corruption division show systematic elimination of functions that could constrain Trump or hold him accountable. When you destroy capacity to investigate constitutional violations and white-collar crime, you remove obstacles to authoritarian governance. And the pattern could spread to other agencies if cabinet officials learn that survival depends on total loyalty and weaponization of their departments. The political implications for midterms are enormous. Democrats will make Trump's war with Justice Department central campaign issue, argue he's destroying rule of law and independence of law enforcement. Use Bondi situation as proof. Trump demands total loyalty over professional integrity. Whether that resonates with voters could determine congressional control, and that control matters because Democratic House could investigate Justice Department abuses and potentially impeach Trump for weaponizing federal law enforcement. The question now is whether Bondi maintains any independence or caves completely, whether Trump's fury forces her out before she destroys what's left of institutional norms, whether replacement would be even worse in terms of political prosecutions, and whether American voters care enough about Justice Department independence to make it an electoral issue. The answers to those questions could determine whether America still has rule of law or just presidential power disguised as justice. Stay tuned.